The last section we're going to talk about here in Chapter 2 is causes of crime and victimization. This is the criminologist's theories that we are going to talk about. We're going to talk about each one of these separately. Knowing why a person commits a crime, right? It's just as important as knowing what the crime rate is and what the trends are and what the patterns are, right? Why do people commit crimes? So there's different points of view among criminologists, and there's not just one defining cause. But a number of these theories play a role. So let's talk about each one of these. The rational choice theory. This really stems around a matter of a logical decision that a criminal goes through, making a logical decision and a choice, like drug dealers, right? There's this potential for profit that is more than, making more money than it is to have a job. It's quick cash. Little stumbling there here. Think about this for a minute. Think about supply and demand in bigger urban areas. It is a lot cheaper to get drugs than in a more rural area. It is common knowledge amongst the criminal justice system and the different agencies here in Plattsburgh, New York, that in a weekend, small amounts of cocaine selling in Plattsburgh can net somebody $12,000 to $14,000 in a weekend or in a day, depending on how many people they come across in a day. So, but that's the perception that's in a big urban area. It's more like $3,000. Of course, the stakes are higher, which gets us to the next point. A criminal weighs the potential profit, the benefit with getting caught. Will I get caught? If more likely to get caught doing it, or the punishment fits the crime, then I might not run the risk. And sadly, folks who travel to upstate New York, the Plattsburgh area, to engage in drug trafficking and selling it do not realize that the penalty here, despite the law being exactly the same, the district attorney, the prosecutors, law enforcement, strictly enforce and prosecute and seek prison, while in more urban areas, that may not be the case. So they weigh their options. This is our rational theory, weighing our options. The biosocial theory. A lot of people live in poverty, but they don't commit crimes. So under the biosocial theory that criminologists use is the environment that people are in intersects with biological factors that control and influence their behavior. And these things kind of exist. These things do exist at birth and soon thereafter. Could make it more prone to commit a crime. Not just somebody who lives in poverty commits crime. There's other things that come into play. Biochemical, neurological, and genetic. So the biochemical is the deficiencies, the mineral, vitamin deficiencies, hormonal imbalances, any environmental contaminants that might lead to antisocial behavior, such as, an example is, mothers who are pregnant and they use drugs or drink. That changes their biological makeup, their chemical balance, and they might seek to commit a crime, or that would affect them in some way. Impairment regarding brain dysfunction, neurology. The impairment leads to a reduced impulse control. One can't control themselves or their self-control. That's in the brain. And genetic factors. Some seem to think under this theory that violent behavior can be inherited. through genetics. But this is under serious debate. Well, it could go. I mean, it makes sense that crime can run in a family. Think of it that way. Crime can run in a family. But is it really genetic, or is it something that's taught just by seeing, which is another theory we'll get to. So this one, the genetic factor, is under a lot of debate whether that plays a role or not. Psychological theory. This poses a number of different views. As you can see, 4 different views under this. The psychodynamic. This is criminals are driven by unconscious thought patterns. They're developed in early childhood, and it controls their behavior over the course of their life. Before I forget, check out, it's in the book. There's a little segment in the corner of one of the pages in the book under this section. The young man, TJ Lane, he's the description in the book is regarding his sentence and what he had done. I'm not going to tell you about it right now. I want you guys to check out the video. I linked the video of his actual sentencing. The book talks about the sentencing, but you have to watch it. You have to see him to get it, and you can see him in his mannerisms and what he does at sentencing to get this particular point that they're making. It's only a few minutes long, and it's linked in Moodle. Check it out. But under this theory, we're dealing with people with schizophrenia, psychotics, other mood disorders, narcissistic tendencies, antisocial, depression, bipolar disorder. They could be the link between these impairments and criminal behavior. But could there be other things too that might influence that? Someone might have one of those illnesses, but does that mean they're automatically going to go out and commit crimes? Probably not. I mean, I know individuals who suffer from different mental illnesses and don't go out and commit crimes. I'm sure you guys do too. Maybe is there some other link, maybe like a social problem? Was there child abuse, lack of financial resources, they live in a high crime area? Are, the police more likely to arrest these types of folks? Sometimes it's not the illness alone, right? Sometimes there has to be something else that heightens it or, brings it about. How about behavioral social learning theory? Criminal behavior is learned through interactions with others, right? They model the behavior. If there's abuse at home, children witness it. The likelihood that when they grow up, they'll be abusive too. Then it begs the question, do kids watch a lot of violent TV? If kids watch a lot of violent TV, are they more likely to be involved in violent behavior themselves? What do you think? Is that true or false? It's actually false. There's been a ton of research and studies on this. The link between media and violent behavior, that's still under a lot of debate. But should young children be prevented from watching violence on TV? I think what really comes up is in that research is that it distorts their reality. Not so much they'd go out and commit crimes as like us, the media affects our thinking. We had a discussion on it last week. How we see these things in the news, and we tend to believe certain things. Think about being a young child seeing violent things. It distorts reality. Cognitive theory. That's defined as the ability to process info. Has to do with one's ability, to learn information quickly, memorize, understand information they receive. The process affects the way in which people make sense of the world around them, the way they interpret the world, interact with others, react to the environment. So under this theory, one lacks the ability to perform those functions in a normal and ordinary fashion. So they may perceive the world as stacked against them, or they may see, they may seek out novel experiences, or they may react without thinking. They get a distorted view of the world. Social structures. Oh, actually, I forgot one. Oh, yeah, personality theory. I'm glad I looked up at the screen here. I'm just peeking through my notes and the slides at the same time. Personality theory. This is one who possesses a disturbed personality structure, or they're more prone to criminal behavior, antisocial disorder, sociopathic, psychopathic personality. Those with these disorders are believed to be dangerous and very aggressive individuals. They neither learned or they don't learn from their mistakes or from punishment. This kind of goes in line with those career criminal types from the last discussion. These are skilled manipulators. An example, famous example, is Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy, who would rape and kill his victims. If you're not familiar with him, Google it in one search. I am not a huge fan of Wikipedia, but the sources that come, if I use it and go to Wikipedia, and if you use it, you should check the footnote links, because as you know, Wikipedia is where people can add what they think is correct information and may not always be correct, and I've found some errors. So go to the actual source. But the information, the overview on Ted Bundy is pretty accurate. You don't need to know in detail, just to get an idea who he is and an example of this personality theory. Now we'll move on to social structure theory. So under this theory, a person's position in the social structure controls his or her behavior. Those in the lowest are more likely to be involved in crime. The culture passes from one generation to the next. These criminal acts are a means of their survival. They're living in poor and homeless conditions. And there's two different theories, the strain theory, the cultural deviance theory. Under the strain theory, it assumes people will commit crime because of strain, stress, or pressure, which can come from a variety of places. It could be the stress to succeed, the stress of losing a loved one, negative life experiences. And the theory is humans are naturally good, and bad things happen. And when that does, that pushes one into criminal activity. Examples would be, drug abuse, drug addictions that lead to committing crimes, alcoholism, could lead to DWIs, that sort of thing. The social process. The social process theory has three different branches. It views criminality as a function of people's interactions with various organizations, institutions, and processes in society. People in all walks of life have the potential to become criminals if they maintain destructive social relationships. And there's kind of, as I said, three components here. The first one is a social learning theory. And this stresses that people learn how to commit crimes. The social learning branch of social process theory suggests that people learn criminal behavior much as they learn regular behavior, conventional behavior. Criminality results from a person's perceiving an excess of definitions in favor of crime over definitions that uphold conventional values. And this is, what I was kind of alluding to previously about genetics. Is crime learned from genetics? Under this theory, kids who have delinquent friends or siblings or people that they spend lots of time with who have criminal attitudes, right? They kind of fall in line. That attitude is reinforced and it will prevail in social situations. So they learn. Social control theory analyzes the failure of society to control to control the criminal tendencies. It's a failure of society to control criminal tendencies. And here, people don't commit crimes due to social bonds. They don't want to weaken ties or damage relationships in friends. So this is kind of they don't want to be seen as someone who is a criminal, so they don't commit crimes due to these social bonds. They don't want to disappoint. They don't, want to be labeled, which is my next one. Label theory maintains the negative labels produced by career criminals. The social reaction label theory holds that criminality is promoted by becoming negatively labeled. So if you call someone a deviant, they're going to be a deviant, right? If somebody is labeled as untrustworthy, they're going to be untrustworthy. The research on labeling theory, though, is not supported by its, major premise. I mean, it seems to lack credibility as a description in the crime causation. If the social process theory has great influence in social policies, and they have control to both treatment orientations and community action policies, like that's the point, then the labeling theory doesn't particularly work. I hope I explained that clearly. If not, shoot me an email, because I don't want to confuse it with the next concept of social conflict theory. But if you need a little bit more on that, let me know, and I'll do another quick video in that area. These theories are going to be a topic that you can choose for your paper, so you can expand on this and whether or not you have an opinion one way or another on one of these theories and which one the best one is. But we're doing our overview of these criminologist theories on the causes of crime. So now I'm digressing. Social conflict theory. We got a couple more. This is driven by the premise that those in power control the content and direction of the law and the legal system. We've kind of already hinted on this for the definition of crime, right? The Marxist theory that capitalism causes crime or defines crime, and in this case causes crime. The social conflict theorists suggest that crime in any society is caused by class conflict, and that laws are created by those in power to protect their rights and interests. All criminal acts have some political undertones. Research efforts to validate the conflict approach, however, have not produced significant findings. One of conflict theory's most important premises is that the justice system is biased and designed to protect the wealthy, but research has not been unanimous in supporting this point. And the Marxists, because that's where it comes from, Karl Marx, criminology views the competitive nature of the capitalist system as a major cause of crime. So the poor commit crimes because they're frustrated, they're angry, and they need, while the wealthy engage in illegal acts because they are used in competition and because they must do so to keep their positions in society. This is that street crimes versus white-collar type crimes and the punishments that go along, the social conflict theory. Then the developmental theory. This is the feature behind this is it's focused on offending in relation to changes over time in an individual's lifetime based on their lifetime circumstances. And most of the research is focused in the person's childhood or youth, because that's the development stages. So the developmental criminologists are concerned with questions of continuity, change in behavior from the onset of life, and reviewing the patterns over time, offending type patterns over time. So they're looking at the life course of a person, what's the propensity of crime and trajectory. The book has a number of examples of these theories. I suggest you go through those. The question is, are any one of these theories better than the other? And do each make sense? each one of these makes sense in their own realm. And I'll note again, it's a paper topic. But just to end on this note, researchers have been able to say that our biology and personality play a role in criminal behaviors, but they cannot say how much and to what degree it does. And the characteristics of our social environment interact with our biology and our personality. So while they're certainly not saying it, those types of things play a role. All right, so that's chapter 2. We'll move on to chapter 3.